everyone to Lifestyle by Design, the video podcast series. My name is Margaret Wiltshire, and I am your host for tonight. Tonight, my very special guest is Dr. Stephen Ruden. Dr. Ruden, welcome!
Thank you very, very much, Margaret. Pleasure to be here.
I'm happy that you've decided to spend your Friday night with us and to teach us a bit about, or share a bit about, what havening is. So, Dr. Ruden, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
About myself?
Yes.
Well, I've been a practicing dentist for about 45 years. Still enjoy my practice. I have become also interested in coaching, and I've become a ICF ACC coach, and I've spent the last 12 years or so working with my brother on a project which we call havening. And we have now been able to, with the help of all the people in the world volunteering their time and efforts and energies, we've been able to expand this project into 20 countries and 8 languages. And we seem to have a very, very happy and loyal following, and we're looking forward to bringing this further into the world with our trainers and our certified practitioners.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we're looking to make inroads slowly and kind of bring it along organically and be invited into the world.
Nice. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because this is a healing tool. But before we go that far, Dr. Ruden, can you please tell me what havening is?
That is a great question. And I know I've been thinking about it all day and trying to come up with something that makes sense. But imagine, we all know that the body can heal itself. So if I have a broken bone, the body intrinsically or internally knows what molecules or what materials are needed to mend. Or if one has a cut on your skin, and the body is able to close that wound and then heal it. But havening has a different venue that we work in. We work in the mind. And when you work in the mind, there are not a lot of ways that up until now that we were able to actually allow the mind to heal itself. I mean, we have 2 pillars existing now, which are psychotherapy and the psychotherapeutics, the talk therapies. We have the psychopharmacologies, which help people by changing their brain chemistry. And havening belongs to a group of approaches called psychosensory approaches. So we use sensory input as our medicine of choice. And when we use our medicine of choice, which in havening is touch, it creates something called an electroceutical. An electroceutical is an energy, as in all energy psychology, that has an effect on the brain. So we use touch to make changes in the brain to help remove or alter or improve behaviors. Because as you and I can agree, most of our behavior that we have is based on our past experiences, how we've been successful, what we need to do to change to be successful, sometimes what our failures were. Sometimes we've experienced deep wounds, and trauma is Greek for wound. And sometimes we carry those wounds with us for a long time, unable to remove them, and yet they affect our behavior on a day-to-day basis even though they are no longer relevant. So now for the first time, we're actually able to go in and use the electroceutical power of touch in a particular protocol to de-link these memories, which are no longer valuable to us, and free us from that emotional trauma that has been with us since the event occurred, and then allow us to move on to a more authentic life.
Okay. So, okay. So, who is havening for?
Well, havening is, we look at havening at 3 levels. Havening can be used in the psychotherapeutic environment, in which they use it to remove phobias or create change in an individual in a wide variety of arenas. It could also be used in a coaching paradigm to help people achieve peak performance. In fact, we just had a article written in the largest golf digest in Britain on how havening can cure the yips, which is a particular golf problem that golfers have. So it helps in peak performance, or in areas where you may have public speaking issues and things like that. And on the third value, it also helps as a self-help tool. So if you're confronted with a circumstance that may cause you distress, havening can be utilized to reduce or eliminate that distress, so you can move forward and not be stuck in that area. So it has those 3 fundamental ideas that we use all the time in our approaches.
Okay. Who is havening not for? Who would not benefit from this?
We believe at this point that people who have serious psychogenic disorders that are like schizophrenia and things like that, we're not ready to say how we can help them, if we can at all, because the area that we work with is not in the same area that their particular concern is expressed. So it is helpful for a wide variety of people who want to either remove unneeded, unwanted, unhelpful emotions and events, and it's also helpful for people who want to achieve and create outcomes for themselves in their life. So that kind of includes everybody.
Okay. Okay. So how, now you said you use touch, the choice, the sensory choice is touch. So let's say that somebody comes to you and they were abused as a child. How does it work when you're havening them? How do you know what area of the body the trauma is held in?
Well, yeah, that's 2 questions. The first answer is, part of our protocol is that we need permission to touch, regardless of what therapeutic model you're using. The good news about havening is that havening can be self-applied. So the individual can actually use their own hands to apply the havening touch. So on those cases where touch is either forbidden from a legal standpoint, or the underlying circumstances of the individual would tend to mitigate or kind of move away from someone else touching them, we have the ability to choose which approach is appropriate for them. And in fact, many of our practitioners globally use Skype to work with people. So we don't even have to be present in the room to appreciate it or help that individual. They're able to haven themselves. And the pharmaceutical of choice, which comes from the touch, is called a delta wave.
Okay.
And we know alpha, beta, gamma, delta. We're an electromagnetic organ. So we know from reading all our literature that the delta wave is the wave that we find to be the most appropriate and most effective approach to creating change in individuals. So after peer review study, we now know that if we look at the delta wave, which does not appear during consciousness, usually just during sleep and during slow wave sleep, so we remember things, we introduce delta waves during the awake state. And if I'm losing you, stop me, because I'm using you as an individual that is a beginner. So,
yes.
So if you don't understand how we're going, please stop me and ask me a question. So we use the areas that produce the highest amount of delta waves per moment. So if I were to rub my hands together like this, this produces about 18 times baseline of just hanging out delta waves.
Okay.
Rubbing my arms like this creates about 30 times baseline delta waves.
Okay.
Washing my face creates 90 times approximately baseline of delta waves, which we want to induce. And we know from the literature that it takes about 800 to 900 delta waves to change the memory that we're trying to change. So depending upon the individual's preference, whether they do it themselves or whether it's done by a facilitator, we anticipate a certain amount of time that has to go by for the delta waves to interact with the part of the brain that alters the function of that memory.
Wow.
Do you understand that?
I follow you. I'm just like, wow, that's pretty amazing. You know?
Yeah, we think so.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, you know, in addition to that, layman's terms, it feels good. You know, it feels good to be touched and it feels good to be stroked. And I guess it's because those delta waves are being released. And in the different areas, there's stronger effects in different parts of the body, on different parts of the body.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we know that the strength of the delta waves is hardwired into us because at the moment of birth, the first thing that helps us as a newborn understand that we can survive is the mother's touch, giving the baby the understanding that it is safe. And that, therefore, is why we use the word havening, which means to place in a safe place. So from time immemorial, the concept of touch creates within us as a species that moment that we are safe. And now we can harness that in a way due to our understanding of the biology to create fundamental change in the structure and function of our brain for the benefit of our clients. But it comes from that most primitive of all moments, the moment of birth, and when the mother picks up the child, after the child gives that blood-curdling scream, creating oxytocin in the mother, compelling her to pick up the child, bringing her to her breast, and the child knows she is safe. So the fundamental aspect of why touch is at the most primitive level of existence for our species and probably for all mammals.
Wow. It's interesting, to hear this on a science, you're literally breaking it down to the science. So this is pretty interesting for me, like what's happening internally and under the hood that we don't get to see and we don't know about. So, wow, I'm learning a lot tonight. Thank you, Dr. Ruden.
Very welcome.
So you talked about Havening working for trauma. Will it also work for phobias and worries and stress?
Yes. What's interesting is all of us growing up are exposed to trauma. Now, the studies have shown that to some degree, the more trauma you have as a young child, for example, poverty or educational problems or broken family or alcoholism or abuse, the greater the chance of adult problems. And this is because the brain can no longer be in a safe place and finds it very difficult to learn with the feeling of not being safe. There are certain neurochemicals that are always going on that prevent that ability to flow with life because you're always hypervigilant about something that is caused by early childhood experiences. And what we've learned is as we can modify or mitigate those early childhood experiences, the individual begins to return to a more authentic or balanced self. And they are able to see life through a different prism. So they may not be angry all the time, or they may not be sad all the time, or they may not have phobias. So phobias are a very interesting issue. Because phobias are usually created in a one-time event as compared to something that is more classically conditioned in which you have multiple events that create a problem. Phobias usually happen one time and you have a phobia. And so therefore, we know as Haveners, it's in the brain in a very special place. And if we bring up that particular phobia, if we ask that individual to imagine it and bring it into a part of the brain, we can pluck it from its place, never to be able to be returned to create that problem again.
Okay. Something just sparked in my head. As you were talking, this came into my head. I remember the runner, I think she was, I'm not going to say the year, I don't know, but she had polio as a child. Yes. She was back maybe in the 60s. I don't want to say Marion. I cannot remember her name, but do you know who I'm talking about? Okay, if anyone out there who's listening knows her name, just type it in the box. But she was an African-American woman who was a Olympic athlete. But as a child, she had polio, and it was expected that she would not walk again. And her mother would massage her legs every day. I remember hearing about the story. And this child who went from a place of not being able to walk properly to an Olympic athlete who was winning races, and her mom was touching her body and massaging her. It just dawned on me, would Havening work for somebody who might have some area in their body that's not functioning well. Maybe somebody who can't walk or somebody who's paralyzed. Have you explored that area yet with havening?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
And under certain circumstances, people can throw away their canes.
Okay. So, what can a patient or a client expect when they come to you and you haven them for either phobia, trauma, or they're stressed out, or they're worried about something in the future? What results can they expect if they play full out and they do basically what they're told and with an open mind?
Their problem disappears.
Okay. And the future is bright?
I think what we're learning is that just because a problem may disappear, the future still needs to be crafted. So problem removal in havening is only part of the issue. The other issue is that we use in havening is the ability to input future outcome potentials and affirm things and have hopeful things and have affirmational things. And so it's more of a complete cycle of using these electroceuticals in a wide variety of ways, both to remove some of the underlying stuckedness from previous experiences and then input potentialities into that individual to help them create a new life for themselves. So there's a duality to the process that we now employ.
Okay. Michelle, thank you. Wilma Rudolph is the name of the woman. Thanks a lot. So I see questions coming in the chat box. I will ask questions towards the end of the interview, but I'm going to take Andrea's question because it's relevant just to literally what we were just talking about. And she asked that you expand on throw away their canes.
There are people who come to havening whose problem is not located in the place upon which the pain is located. The pain is located somewhere in their brain and it's encoded to produce a response. And that response may be low back pain, neck pain, phantom limb pain, other issues that are not locally problematical, but are central nervous system circumstances. And what we then do is we go in there and modify the central nervous system, and the downstream effect that's causing them their disability sometimes disappears. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times that if it is not encoded in the brain that way, we're not successful. But if it is, we're able to create a change in that way and allow them to be more comfortable. So I don't want Andrew to think that I am one of these tent healers. I'm not.
Evangelist.
This is all based in science. So a lot of it depends on whether the problem is organic, whether the problem is due to a trauma, physical trauma, whether it's due to an emotional trauma, what their onset was. A whole wide variety of history-taking issues guide us into what we can do or how we can help them.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know. I hope that answers her question.
Well, everyone can send in their questions. And like I said, I promise I'll ask Dr. Ruden your questions. Okay, so Dr. Ruden, you brought up an interesting point there. So now tell me, what have you learned about human behavior, patterns, beliefs through the process? Andrea said yes, by the way, through the process of havening. What have you learned? What have you learned about us human beings?
I have learned to be very gentle with everyone because no one knows what's behind another person's eyeballs.
Wow. Okay. Also, in that process, you just touched on something. Somebody comes in for one thing, but as you peel the layer, start peeling the onions, the thing that they came in for, maybe it's not that thing. Have you experienced that also in the process of havening?
That's a brilliant observation. And of course, that's what we find. People many times come in for one thing, but because we don't look at what we're doing as the presenting problem, we look for the event that is permissive for that problem to exist. There's sometimes a disconnect from the patient because the patient in our current thinking thinks that if the side of the problem is the cause, then they're surprised when the side of the problem is remote from there and we could solve the problem by affecting the brain. So, and sometimes when we are in process with our clients, we could be going down through the process and we can get to a point when that thing, the next peel pops up in the middle of the process of what we're doing. And then we have to, which says to us, people that are aware of it, means that we've pretty much processed the one we were working on, but this one, which was being covered by that process, now has entered into the client's consciousness, and we start working on that until we get to the event, or as close as we get to the event that was the initial event that caused the behavior that we're seeing. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. It does. And it's a very interesting phenomena.
Yes.
Very interesting. So now tell me.
The elephant doesn't come into the room right away. It's rare that the elephant comes into the room right away. There's a lot of trust that has to be built, and we do that during our history taking and our presence in the moment, and our approach, where one needs to be kind, gentle, and understanding, because they're going to be sometimes sharing things with you that they have never shared with anyone but themselves. And one needs, in the process, to be able to receive these things without trying to rush the client to come up with an answer, because the client will eventually come up with the answer for them. Our job is just to be there to receive them when that comes, and then apply the appropriate technology. And Havening has many technologies. It's not just touch. We have many other technologies that we use under this protocol. So we have a lot of tools in Havening as well.
Okay. So you said that one can haven themselves.
Yes.
Now, when would you need, let me rephrase that question.
Well, let me see if I get to where you're going. Why do you need someone to help you if you could do it yourself?
Something like that, but that's a good one.
I think you need someone to help you on very difficult circumstances, to allow you to go to a safe place with someone who you trust being there. As you get good in this, personally yourself, you'll be able to be more comfortable to go to those places by yourself and self-haven.
Okay. Where can I find a practitioner?
www.havening.org. We have a global network of practitioners in multiple languages. I know French, Spanish, Norwegian, Swedish, Italian, Hungarian, I'm sure I'm German, Dutch, quite a number. Off the top of my head, I'm sure there are more. I apologize to those I left out. But you can find out, and you can even look up, some of them even have areas in which they like to specialize in, such as children or first responders and phobias or addictions and things like that. And you can look over our practitioners who have gone through a rigorous training program to be placed on the website as certified practitioners. There are probably, at this point, about 100 globally.
Okay.
And each one of them had to go through a very rigorous process to get there. So any one of them is really excellent.
How long has Havening been around?
I think Havening has been around since time immemorial. I think that the understanding of the neuroscience has enabled us to target approaches as compared to generalized approaches. So if you came home from school as a young child and you walked into your mother's arms and she comforted you, that's Havening. But we have developed other protocols and things that utilize this fundamental human experience and are able to target this to achieve outcomes for people that there is no other way to get there.
Okay. So there's all this talk about this other technology called tapping. Could you explain to me the difference between havening and tapping?
I can explain it to you. In general terms, I am a comparative individual as compared to an oppositional individual. So I'm not opposed to anything that people feel is successful for them. If we're going to do this, we're going to compare rather than be oppositional. So tapping uses meridians, which are a more Eastern philosophy. They use gamut spots. They use different paradigms for different problems. Havening has one paradigm or one protocol that we generally use. And we use it because we understand the Western-based science that we have available to apply our knowledge. So we're just not doing paradigms as compared to EFT or TFT or EMDR, which people may, emotional freedom technique, thought field therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and others. We're very targeted, and we find it to be much more efficacious, more rapid, and easier on the client.
How long would a patient need the therapy for?
Depends on the degree of trauma and the desire of where they want to go to. But generally, it's relatively short.
Okay. Have you used havening on yourself?
All the time.
Okay. And what have been some of your experiences with havening yourself?
Generally, I use it when I have high anxiety on something. And I'll chant the word or phrase, which is another form of havening, that's giving me anxiety until it disappears. So I generally, I'm pretty even in my temperament. I have a fair degree of resilience, but there are times that things arise that I find it to be very, very helpful to me. And even for my patients in the chair who are dentally phobic, I can sit there, and while they're sitting there, I can remove their phobias, and then we can just go on and work. So it's very helpful in my work, and for myself as well. In fact, when you do any psychotherapeutic work, most of the work is not done in the session. You only have a short time with the particular facilitator or therapist. Most of the work is done outside the session. And that's where self-havening is so valuable in applying the principles that you learn in the session to your life, so you can maneuver through them using these techniques.
So Michelle wants to know, what are some of the other technologies that Havening has?
Well, we have something called, I'll mention a few. We have something called transpirational havening, which is very, very interesting. In our model, in our way of thinking, emotions are gathered in similar places in the brain. So anger has a place, and guilt has a place, and shame has a place in your brain, and they're kind of collected in certain areas of the brain, but they're loosely connected because, generally speaking, the shame you may have with something may not be related to shame you have with something else. But when you apply havening touch, it creates a ability for all of those shames that you have, or all of the guilts that you have, to kind of coalesce. And as you use that word, ashamed, they seem, as you haven, they seem to coalesce and come out of your mouth as you speak them. And as you speak them, a visual comes up in your mind about the thing that you are ashamed of, that word represents. It disappears into the world, and the visual image about it also disappears, never to be recapitulated or seen again. So in transpirational havening, we're able to take multiple aspects of an emotion, put them together, and remove them at the same time, which is pretty astonishing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that answers Michelle's questions. We have other ones. Such as if people, for example, have very difficult challenges and they can't see themselves actually moving into that place. We have something that was developed called informational havening. So you could ask the person, well, what if this were possible? How would that look? And so they don't have to go to that place, but they can go to a place that, what if? So it allows them a little more space to go near that thing that may be very uncomfortable for them. And we have quite a number, and others are being developed all the time, and we're trying to keep the order and sense of coherence, so that everybody understands the vocabulary and knows how to use them. So as an organization, we're trying to have contained flexibility. We welcome new ideas, but they need to be within the confinement of our paradigm. Does that make sense? So yes, so we have many models, we have many things that we use, but we're trying to keep it all within one framework.
Okay. So, can you give us maybe, can you share with us, just for everyday purposes, maybe some stress or some anxiety that, we will run into during the course of life, or, some tips on or instructions on how we can haven ourselves. Just
Sure.
if a stressful situation comes up and we feel ourselves about to lose control, what can we do?
The good news is when you're angry about something and you feel you're allowed to lose control, that's the perfect time to do havening. Because the part of your brain that's causing this behavior is very activated. So what I would recommend you do, and maybe what we'll do is we'll try something, and you tell me if you're comfortable with this online.
I'm game.
Okay, so for all the people watching online, we can do an experiment. Now, please understand that this is purely for educational purposes. I have no desire to know what your problems are. And in turn, in Havening, we don't even need to know what people's problems are. People only need to know what their problems are, which is another thing because they don't have to tell you in case it's a painful thing. So what I'm going to do is ask if people would like, and this is only voluntary, if they would spend a minute sitting in their chair getting comfortable. And just I want you to watch me for a minute. And I'm going to review the havening touches that we use. So, and you could choose whatever one you feel works best for you. So the havening touches are your palm, your arms, and your shoulders. You stroke down gently. Kind of like the level of touch is like you're giving yourself a gentle hug. And washing your face. Great, great. So what we know is that if we activate a thought into our brain that gives us distress, the electroceuticals that come from the touch, the delta waves, are able to de-link that distress. So we're going to do this for a few minutes. Now, do you have something that distresses you from time to time?
I do.
Great. You don't have to tell me what it is.
My son not picking up his clothes and putting it where they belong every single day.
Well, I haven't learned that yet either. So I understand the man thing about it. That's not true. I'm better. So just make sure he marries a wife that understands.
Okay.
But for those people who are watching and do have something that may cause them distress, let's see if we can eliminate it in a few minutes that we have left. Now, that being said, I always ask permission. And I'm going to ask you just to listen to the sound of my voice and do as I advise. And if for at any moment you feel uncomfortable, just stop. Just stop what you're doing and just breathe gently. Okay? So I'm going to ask the people, if they so choose, to, when I tell them to bring up a distressing event. And I'm going to give them 20 seconds to do so. And they're going to come up in their mind with a number of how distressed they are. 10 is very distressed, 0 is not distressed at all. And I want them to say the number to themselves. And then they're going to follow my instructions, which will be humming a tune, counting backwards, imagining jumping rope, and remove as best as you can your thought from what you just thought of that caused you distress. and then follow it. And I'll time on my watch for 5 minutes, and everybody will get a chance, and then we'll see how everybody does. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Great. Everybody on board? Okay. So if everybody's ready, I'm going to look at my watch, and we're going to count for 20 seconds starting now. Close your eyes and bring up the thing that is causing you distress in all its color, its smell, its touch. It is as if you are there for the first time now. And I want you to give it a number between 0 and 10. And say this to yourself. Great. I want you to clap your hands together and take the thought out of your mind and start rubbing your hands together and imagine yourself at the base of a beautiful staircase of your own making. And this staircase has 20 steps. And these 20 steps lead to a beautiful vista of your own making that you will enjoy seeing. It could be a beach or a forest or a beautiful sunset, whatever it is that gives you joy. I want you to start stroking your arms now. Good, and I want you to start counting out loud, Margaret, so we have some cadence here. 1 to 20, and each time you count, you take a step and you feel calmer and more relaxed. Whenever you're ready, start counting to 20.
1, 2.
Good.
3.
Yes.
4.
Mm-hmm.
5.
Good cadence.
6. 7.
Beautiful.
8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20.
Good. Take a deep breath and relax your shoulders. Keep arm havening. Continue to haven your arms. Good. Relax your shoulders and take a deep breath and see the beautiful vista in front of you. Great. I want you to now, do you know Jingle Bells? I think everybody knows Jingle Bells. Do you know Jingle Bells?
Yes.
Good. What I want you to do is I want you to chant Jingle Bells, but in a very specific way. I want you to chant Jingle Bells by using the word ho, ho, ho. So it's going to sound something like this. Ho, 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 until you're done in as full body of movement as you can. And whenever you're ready, do Jingle Bells and say it through ho, ho, ho. Ready? Go.
Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho.
Good. Take a deep breath. Good. Rub your hands. Rub your hands. When you were a little girl or a little boy, depending upon what you are out there, did you ever have a game you liked to play? Jump rope, hopscotch, things like that?
Yes.
What was your favorite game?
I like
Yes. Go ahead.
I like to build houses with books. I'd like to imagine things.
Okay. So I'd like you to do, and I'd like everyone else to pick whatever they like to do. And imagine you're placing your books one on top of one another, counting out loud to 10 while you face haven. Ready? And whatever anyone else does to 10, jump rope, row the boat, anything else to count 10. So start face havening now. And count to 10 as you put the books to create your beautiful structure or sculpture. Out loud count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Take a deep breath. Put your hands on your lap. Good. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes.
Kind of just want to stay here.
I know. Pretty nice. Whenever you're ready. Great. How are you feeling?
Very relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not thinking about, the issue in the beginning. I can't even remember what it was that I was angry about. But actually, I do have this bright light here, but things are like really bright.
Yep.
And very calm and relaxed and just happy.
Well, ask if any of your other clients any of the other people have achieved any of that feeling.
Yes. Has anyone there who've done the exercise? How do you feel? Please put it in the chat box. Let us know.
Do you feel lighter?
I do feel lighter. I feel
unburdened.
I do. I wanted to stay there. If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably just stay there.
But you can now
for a while.
You can go back and pick up. You now know the skills to haven yourself.
Okay. So Diamond says very relaxed and peaceful.
Good.
That's awesome. Let's see who else type in there. Okay. So I do have a couple of questions from the audience here.
Sure.
Diamond actually has a question, and I have to scroll. Does alpha or beta waves have the same effect?
No.
Okay. So what's the difference?
Delta waves are very slow moving waves and are highly specific for this type of intervention. The other waves, such as gamma waves and alpha waves and other waves, are used in other parts of the brain to create other environments, but our model is based on the delta wave, even though we can have a long discussion on alpha and theta and gamma waves. And she brings up a very good point that these are used in neurofeedback, biofeedback, and a whole wide variety of other technologies.
Okay. Mike has a question here, and Mike's question is, well, he says it's very interesting. And what made you get into this field of study?
I'm a very curious person.
Okay.
And when you see the changes in people, it is so astonishing that I could not let this go until we figured out how it worked. It is just a life's work to help the world.
That it's pretty amazing, when you're helping to heal others. And there's also a trickle-down effect, because as they learn to heal themselves, they learn to heal others also.
We have saved people's lives, which have altered the course of the world.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Scott wants to know, what if we bring up that distressing event now? And I guess this is after we just havened. So that's his question.
I would ask all of the people who did the process to see if they could bring up the distressing event. So all of those who are listening, try to bring up the distressing event. Margaret, try to bring up the distressing event.
I couldn't remember. I mean, I remember what it is now, but it was funny.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Go back and look for that event. This is called the debrief. We're debriefing our clients, and it's a very important part of havening, which, as another comparison to tapping, they don't have debriefing. Can you generate any anger around that memory?
No, I can't, because I'm not in that place.
Oh, it looks different.
It looks different. It looks distant.
It looks far away.
Yeah.
As if you are looking at it from afar.
Yeah.
So
like I'm not attached to it.
Yes, that's what happens. You disassociate the emotion from the event, and the event fades because it probably happened so many years ago. Your mind then just lets it get away.
Okay.
But you can't feel the emotional content of it at this time. Is that correct?
Yes. Disassociated, Scott said.
Yes.
Diamond asked, what's the name of the type of study, waves? And Carol responded saying brain waves. Is it brain waves?
What is this person asking me for the name of the study in the peer-reviewed journals? Or is he, I'm not sure of the question.
Diamond, can you specify a bit more? I think maybe she asked the question about the alpha waves and the delta waves. So was there is it the name of the study with the different waves and the different I guess effects on the body? So I'll wait for her to respond. And while she's responding, I had someone text me in some questions because he was not able to be on live tonight. So he is a lieutenant with the New Jersey State Police. He is the task force commander for internet crimes against children. And he wanted to know, havening applied in the context. Havening applied to police officers, but in the context, I guess, within his department, his employees who witness child porn videos over and over and over, would that work? Then he says, for example, if a police officer has to watch a child raped on videos, and that is the trigger, if he or she has to watch these videos over and over again, will havening work?
Yes.
Okay. So that's for John Pizzuro when he looks at the replay of the video. Your answer is yes, John.
And he can contact havening.org, and we have people who work with secondary traumatization.
Okay. So Diamond responded here, and she said, waves affecting the brain. So the name of the study for the waves affecting the brain.
Taming the Amygdala by Harper, Harper, in the Journal of Traumatology.
Scott says he needs some training for this. So training, I'm just going to type that in here. Training the amygdala. That's a big science word.
Taming.
Taming. Oh,
The
it's training.
Amygdala, it's spelled Amygdala. I try not to science words.
Okay. Amy, GDLA?
GDALA.
GDALA.
Right.
So, taming the amygdala.
Amygdala by Harper in the Journal of Traumatology. These are very highly scientific studies.
Okay. So, should we make havening a part of our daily routine?
It can only help. I generally speaking, I haven basically every day. I do a thing called hopeful havening, in which I create a sense of hope for a good day by inputting into my brain those things that I hope will come true. And havening allows us to place things into our brains as well.
So, let's see here. Displaying this. Okay. I just popped in here because I know you have a training for haveners, new haveners, or people who are interested in havening to be a practitioner in New York City, March 19th to the 20th.
Yes.
And there's an offer here that I just popped in the chat box. I hope that everyone can see it. But for mentioning the podcast, Lifestyle by Design, they will get $100 off that training.
Also mention that they will get 16 continuing education credits for both social workers and International Coaching Federation coaches. So they will get continuing education credits for this. This has been a credit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Carol said that here, Carol's put in the link to the brainwaves and the amygdala. Thank you, Carol. And that link is in the box.
I thank Carol also.
Is that Carol Knack? Hi, Carol.
Maybe Carol Robertson. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Another brilliant one of our practitioners.
Okay. So let's see. Scott says the police need a trained practitioner. Okay. So just want to make sure I get to everyone and all their questions because there's conversation going on. If anyone has any last questions to ask Dr. Ruden, please send them in now. And again, there will be a training in New York City, March 19th, in New York, not New York City. It's in Roslyn, New York? Roslyn, New York.
People are coming from, this is an international training. That leads to certification.
Okay. And you mentioned Lifestyle by Design podcast, and you get $100 off. Plus, you get professional credits, 16 professional credits in the different areas for coaching and for
licensed social workers.
Licensed social workers. Diamond says, thank you very much. It was great information.
Tell her she's very welcome.
Okay. So I guess that's pretty much it. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I especially want to thank you, Dr. Ruden, for spending your Friday night here at Lifestyle by Design with us and sharing this wealth of information, sharing this healing technology that people can actually apply and use in their life to not only heal themselves, but to heal others. And you are impacting the world and making a change. And I am grateful and honored that you are here to discuss it and share this with all of us. Thank you so much.
A big shout out to my Haveners who are watching. Hi, guys. I hope I did you proud, and we'll speak soon.
Okay. Andrea said, thanks, Doc. You rock.
Tell Andrea hello.
Okay. So thank you again, everyone. You guys are awesome. Dr. Ruden, again, thank you so much. Maybe you'll come back and you'll be a guest another day and time.
My pleasure.
Thank you. It was an honor having you here.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Carol. So everyone's signing off and saying goodbye.
Great.
Marianne also said, yes, you did. Okay, you repped her well. Okay, thank you, Andrea. So thanks, everyone. And I just want to say, I never do this because I always forget. Here's where I plug myself. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please like, comment, and share the link. And I want to thank you guys again for spending your Friday night here. This was awesome information. And let us continue to make a difference in the world and live a lifestyle by design, not default. We live with passion and purpose, and we live on purpose. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Carol, it's Robeson from Scotland. Wow, we have someone from Scotland on the line.
Yep.
That's awesome. So good night, everyone, and thanks again.
Just let us know when is everybody off?
No, not yet.